When it comes to the future of cars, most people still think about batteries, range, or autopilot. But if you look deeper, it becomes clear that the real revolution is happening not in the hardware, but in how a person interacts with the car. And this is exactly where Tesla, apparently, is preparing for one of the most unexpected moves in recent years. According to information that is increasingly appearing in the industry, Tesla is working on its own next-generation system, which is already unofficially being called Tesla CarPlay. And this is not just a response to Apple CarPlay from Apple. It is an attempt to completely rethink the very idea of the automotive interface and turn the car into a fully intelligent center. The most interesting thing in this story is that Tesla is simultaneously moving in two directions at once. On the one hand, the company is developing its own system with deep integration of artificial intelligence. On the other hand, it is preparing to implement Apple CarPlay in the near future. And at first glance, this looks like a contradiction, but if you look closer, it becomes clear that this is a strategic move. For a long time, Tesla fundamentally refused CarPlay. The company built a completely closed ecosystem where everything, from navigation to multimedia, was developed in-house. This gave full control over the user experience and made it possible to deeply integrate the system with autopilot. But at the same time, this approach had a downside. Users could not use familiar services from their iPhone, and now a shift is happening. Elon Musk is essentially making a very unusual move. Instead of continuing to ignore Apple, he allows its system into his platform. But it is important to understand, this is not a capitulation. It is an experiment, and at the same time, preparation for the next stage. Because in parallel, Tesla is creating a system that could potentially be one level higher. If Apple CarPlay is essentially a projection of a smartphone onto the car's screen, then Tesla is betting on making the car itself the main device. Not an addition to the phone, but its replacement in the context of the drive. And here, artificial intelligence plays the key role. Tesla already has a huge amount of data and a powerful infrastructure to process it. Their cars constantly collect information about routes, driver behavior, and road conditions. And if earlier this was mainly used for autopilot, now all of this can become the foundation for a completely new user experience. Imagine a system that does not just respond to commands but understands context. You get into the car, and it already knows where you are most likely going because it analyzes your habits. It automatically builds a route taking into account current traffic, weather, and even your driving style. It selects music not just from your recent tracks, but based on the time of day, your mood, and previous trips. And all of this happens without the need to manually configure anything. The interface becomes invisible. You do not interact with the system, you simply live, and it adapts to you. And this is the key difference from Apple CarPlay. There, you still interact with apps. In the Tesla of the future, you interact with intelligence. Moreover, such a system can go far beyond traditional functions. It can integrate with your calendar, work tasks, and smart home. Imagine that you leave work, and the car automatically synchronizes with your schedule, warns you about meetings, suggests the optimal departure time, and by the time you arrive home, it has already turned on the lights, climate, and the necessary devices. This turns the car into the center of your entire digital ecosystem. That is why Tesla is not just making another CarPlay, it is building a completely different model. But then the question arises, why do they need Apple CarPlay integration at all? And this is where the most interesting hypothesis appears. Tesla may use CarPlay as an entry point, as a bridge for users who are used to the Apple ecosystem. This lowers the barrier and makes the transition to Tesla more comfortable. But at the same time, inside the car, there will already be an alternative that may eventually turn out to be more convenient. And then the choice will become obvious. Not because Tesla banned Apple, but because its system will be better. This is a very subtle strategy, not to compete directly, but to let the user compare. And if Tesla truly implements everything that insiders are currently talking about, its system could become one of the most advanced interfaces in the industry, because it will be built not around apps, but around the person, not around the screen, but around behavior, not around commands, but around understanding. And this could become the very moment when the car finally stops being just a means of transportation and turns into a full-fledged intelligent device. A device that does not just execute commands, but helps make decisions. A device that does not just display information, but understands what you need. And if that happens, the question will no longer be whether the car has CarPlay, but whether it is needed at all. And here another point appears that is rarely discussed, but may turn out to be the key in this entire story. If Tesla is really creating its own next-generation CarPlay, then this is not just about competition between interfaces, it is about control over data. Because in the modern world, data is becoming the most valuable resource. When you use Apple CarPlay, most of the interaction goes through the Apple ecosystem. Music, messages, routes. All of this is tied to the iPhone. In this case, the car becomes just a screen and an interface for an already existing digital life. But Tesla has been building a different model from the very beginning. The company wants all the interaction logic to happen inside the car itself, so that the vehicle becomes the center of data processing, the center of decision-making, and the center of the user experience. And if you add artificial intelligence to this, you get a system that is capable not just of displaying information, but of shaping it. This is a very subtle but important difference, because at some point the system may begin not only to suggest options, but also to influence behavior, to suggest faster routes, optimize time, and change user habits, making them more efficient. And this is exactly where Tesla gains a huge advantage. Unlike most companies, it already has access to real data from millions of vehicles. These are not simulations or tests. This is a live environment. Real roads, real situations, real people. And based on this, it is possible to train systems that become increasingly accurate and intelligent. And if you imagine that all this infrastructure is combined into a single interface, then we are no longer just getting a smart car. We are getting a system that is constantly learning, that evolves together with the user, that over time begins to understand you better than any smartphone. And then it becomes clear why Tesla is taking this seemingly unusual step with integrating Apple CarPlay. This is not a rejection of its philosophy. It is a temporary coexistence, a period in which users will be able to feel the difference between the two approaches themselves. On one side, a familiar, understandable, and convenient system from Apple. On the other, a new, deeper, and more intelligent system from Tesla. And at some point, the choice may become obvious. Not because one of them disappears, but because one of them starts to feel outdated. In the end, Tesla uses Apple CarPlay as a convenient bridge so that users can experience the difference themselves and gradually move to a more intelligent system, where the car is no longer just a screen, but a true intelligent companion that understands you better than any smartphone. Over time, this companion not only anticipates your wishes, but also becomes an inseparable part of everyday life, making every trip a natural extension of your day.